All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. A little bit more intriguing aspect. So we've learned that if we have parentheses, that is a multiplication symbol. Okay, we started out with that, like 3 times 4 can be written like this. Then at some point, we moved along and we said, hey, here's a little bit more complicated problem. What if there's something we don't know being added or subtracted by inside of parentheses? In other words, how do we multiply a group of things? And we learn to distribute the 3 to each term. Now, over the next few examples, okay, we're going to be learning multiple ways to do this one thing. And that is the idea of, instead of how do I multiply one group by a number, we're asking how do we multiply a group by a group? That could exist. So over the next 1, 2, 3 examples, we're going to be learning 3 different ways to be able to find the answer. By the end of the 3, you should be able to pick one that you feel a little bit more comfortable with and really work at getting that down. Now, the purpose of teaching you all 3 and then having you work different problems to do this is to give you an opportunity to use all of them a lot and then make the decision which one you're going to stick with long term. Okay, so make sure you keep that in mind, that having you do this is trying to have you pick which one are you more comfortable with, which method, and hopefully by the end of 7.2, not the end of the videos, the end after you've done all the work, how it's asked you to do it, then you choose one, okay? Now, what we're doing here is we're using these same 2 concepts we did before, that parentheses, paper's falling, that parentheses mean multiplication. So what we see here is it means multiply these 2 groups. Now, how we would do that using the distributive property is we would look and sit there and say, here's an x term and here's a constant term, and then here's an entire group. Now, yes, there's an x term in the second one, there's a constant term in the other one, but we don't want to look at it that way because we want to take this x and multiply it by that second group. Now, here, since I was adding 2, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to be adding the product of that 2 times the same original group. And now I just have 2 problems that are 2 parts of my problem that look like something we've done before in the distributive property. What I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this to be x squared plus 5x. And then over here we've got a positive 2x plus 10. At this point, I've gotten rid of my multiplication, so I just move on to addition. I've got an x squared by itself. Ooh, I really thought that I had changed that to blue. I've got an x squared term by itself. There's no other x squared, so that guy is all alone. Then we've got let's change the color scheme a little bit. There we go. We've got an x term and an x term. So I need to combine those. That means I have a total of 7 x's. And lastly, we have this constant term that's all by itself. So I'm going to add it in. And at this point, I am done. I have multiplied binomials using the distributive property. We've got another example down here that I can do the exact same thing with. I can recognize there's an individual term. Here is an individual term. And I'm going to multiply it by the entire group. So I get x. Ooh. x times x minus 4. And then I'm going to be adding, because I'm adding here 3. And then I'm going to multiply by that same original group. Now here I get x squared minus 4x. Over here I get a positive 3x minus 12, because positive 3 times negative 4 is a negative 12. I recognize there's an x term here, or x squared term, so I keep that. I combine my x terms. Well, negative 4 plus 3 is a negative 1x, so I'm just going to put x, because nx means 1x. And lastly, I need to see that this constant term is by itself of negative 12. And at that point, I have finished multiplying my second binomial using the distributive property.